All right, welcome everybody. My name is Paul Morales, and I'm so glad that you could join us today for us talking about preparing for peak production season with direct-to-garment printing. So I will be the host today. I'm Paul Morales, Senior Application Specialist for F-Series products here at Epson. I'm joined by our product manager, Mr. Tim Check, and also the inventor and creator of DTG, who also came up with the first commercial patent for direct-to-garment printing, Mr. Matt Rome, will also be joining us on this call. So we have quite a bit of knowledge and experience and information to present to you today on this particular topic. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first thing that I want to go over is if you like this webinar event and want to see more events like this, be sure to take a look at the link that you see on screen right now, which is epson.com/SureColor events. You can browse by category and you can see all the upcoming webinars that we have. We have a few coming up on dye sublimation, as well as more direct-to-garment printing in the next couple of weeks and month out. So be sure to take a look at the website so that you can see all the different events that we have, register for the ones that you want to see, and also you'll be able to see a video archive of any events that you might have missed in the past that you wanted to be a part of. So once again, that site is epson.com/SureColor events. So some of the things that we're going to be talking about on this webinar today are different ways that we can maximize our productivity. And we're going to go through different processes from the front office and through the production process, how we want to manage our materials, production capacity, and we'll be kind of going through different things, breaking down some different tips and tricks and pointers that we can help provide you and your business to maximize your productivity and prepare for this peak season. So I'd like to start it off with talking about a little bit on the front office and then moving forward from there. So with that, I will introduce to us our product manager for DTG products here, Mr. Tim Check. Tim, please take it away.
All right. All right, Paul, thank you very much. I appreciate the excellent introduction. So today our hope is really that we're going to be focusing on is looking at ways how to prepare for that peak season. And so what I'm going to go through for the next few moments here is just looking at it. I know everybody looks to right away, how do you get faster? How do you produce more? That means more equipment or faster equipment, but sometimes it's actually not really even equipment or even the back office or the production area at all. So I'm going to look a little bit at the what we call the front office side to it. So I'm going to start out first by just looking at some of the things that people will typically do with direct-to-garment printing. And so when we look at what we can do with our direct-to-garment printers, there is a lot of different options. So we have, probably most everybody thinks of these printers as t-shirt printers. So for sure, doing products like a t-shirt. But when we start looking at some of the other products that you can offer in your catalog, you may have things like 100% polyester shirts. Neat product, a little bit different process though. So we have our t-shirts, we have polyester, we have hoodies. We may be doing things like small baby onesies and youth apparel. A little bit different print process, but we can do those type of works with this system. As we're getting closer to the holidays, ho, 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 let's get some tote bags going. We can have a lot of different types of applications that we can run with this system. Each is using a little bit of different print process. And just briefly, I'm just going to highlight two more. The one that's printing onto hats, unstructured hats. This is a trucker hat. Very comfortable to wear, and even onto shoes, where we're printing onto the sides of a type of high top shoes, canvas high top shoes. A lot of different types of products we can do. That's exciting, but as we get ready for peak season, one of the big things, each one of these products that I just showed is a different print process. It still uses the same printer, but there may be a different platen, there may be a different loading technique, maybe there's a different preparation, so using a different type of pre-treat liquid or using a little bit different process. Each one of those processes, if you were trying to be able to run and you got 100 orders in, and they were all for t-shirts, you'd be able to run your process, get your shirts ready, print your 100 shirts, and basically cure them, pack them up, and off you go. But if every design was switching between doing 100% cotton, going over to 100% poly, going over to a hat, going over to hoodie, you'd have a lot of different changeover in your production process. And the reason why I mention this is one of those spots when you want to look at what your product offering is, your product catalog, you may want to offer all these products because some of these could be really exciting, but take a look at where are your sales actually coming from. The products that you put out in your catalog and the products that you're marketing and letting everybody know, maybe you want to keep those down to those core products that you know you have a streamlined work process where you know you can get those products in and out, no problem whatsoever. Doing some of these specialty products or a little bit more niche type products, you want to have that in your product portfolio, but maybe that's not something you put out there on the front page of your website is highlighting that type of capability. But make sure it's also appropriately priced. But as we're going to talk about a little bit later today, one of the spots that you'll see is sometimes finding the right products or those type of products that we're using. I'm sure many of you have noticed that the availability sometimes is a little more challenging. So even on a t-shirt that we're doing, if you're looking from an extra small to a 4XL size garment, you probably have a pretty good luck finding those in your main common color. So black, white, red, blue, no problem. But as you start getting to some of these specialty products, if you offer hundreds of different types or basically the full catalog of your supplier, you may want to check in to see, are those products readily available or are they dealing with some of the supply chain constraints that are happening today? It's a lot harder to find product and making sure that's available. The last thing you want to have is you have the orders coming in during peak season, but you don't have the materials to print onto. Make sure you look at that. Make sure you factor in your portfolio and the products that don't make sense. Maybe put them off to the side in the back burner. But also going along with that, as I mentioned, that supply chain side, and not to always be talking doom and gloom here, there's definitely products that are made stateside that are readily available or regularly produced and available, but it costs more. Products that are coming in overseas to get that access to that, it may cost more. The pricing has changed or the cost of a lot of those material have changed. And so it's an area that you want to make sure before you just go into what you had from the beginning of the year or from last year for your pricing, you may want to factor in what happened to my costs. Have my costs gone up in the materials or my labor costs have gone up? Making sure that your products that you're selling are priced appropriately. It's not a bad idea to dust that off. And if you're pricing everything on a cost plus model and you're doing some of those specialty items that we mentioned earlier, maybe you keep those in your portfolio, but you price in that change over time. So the time it takes to change the platens and making sure the operator knows how to use print onto a hat or a tote bag. Factor those things in up front into your pricing. And maybe it's a little bit more of a premium price or it's a special service that has a one-time charge to do that. Many different options that are there, but what you don't want to be caught in is producing a lot of product and making no money during the peak season. That's not a good way to get through the season without the stress. So with that said, that's what we're looking at from the front office. Those are areas that if you look at how you can prune your portfolio, make sure you price it right. The work that you're doing, the effort, the time that you're spent printing is more productive, but also more profitable for you as well. And speaking of that, we're going to switch over to actually look at not just the front office, but as you start getting into the production process. And so for that, Paul, if you don't mind, I'm going to hand that back over to you to take a closer look at some of the things you can look at in your production process to be ready for the peak season.
Great. Thank you, Tim. So let's jump right in and talk about different things that we can do from a production standpoint to not only maximize our productivity, but really prepare and knock out all those orders during the peak production time. And so a couple of things that we've talked about this before, but it certainly bears repeating. Certainly want to pre-treat your shirts in advance. If you use an enclosed automated pre-treat system, you can have it in the same room as your printing equipment and even as your curing equipment. So it makes matters much easier. We want to minimize walking back and forth from different departments or even from different equipment, from the printing equipment to the auxiliary equipment. If we can minimize all of that, then we can definitely maximize our productivity. And so taking a look, there we go. This is an example here of just one operator being able to run the entire process from start to finish completely on their own. So you can see we have an enclosed pre-treat system off to one side, got a couple of heat presses, staging area to take care of shirts that are both pre-treated and also shirts that just got printed and are needing to cure. And by putting everything together in a pod-like setup, we're able to maximize the efficiency of the operator's production throughout the day. So minimizing the walking back and forth and the steps needed to perform these various tasks. And what's great about a setup like this It's not only is it ergonomically laid out, but it also makes it convenient from a scalability standpoint. So if you need to add more equipment in the future moving forward, this makes it easy to duplicate this type of setup and grow from this particular setup. So very easy in a small floor plan to be able to produce this type of setup here and maximize your productivity in that manner. Now, taking a look at more of the industrial end, when you have multiple printers that you're running, and this is actually a clip from a webinar that we did not too long ago. You can find a recording of this, in fact, on the SureColor Events webpage of our website. But what this is illustrating and highlighting right here is one operator running multiple machines with an automated type of workflow with barcode scanning and being able to stream data to the printers much more quickly and efficiently to get those jobs printed sooner and out the door sooner. And you can see in this particular instance or example, we have a conveyor dryer that we're using to make it really easy for the operator that's running multiple machines. As soon as that shirt is done, take it over to the dryer to cure, pass it on through, and then keep moving along. And this setup as well is in a pod-like type of setup, but can be scalable and can be grown out with multiple more printers, adding an operator for each 2 or so printers from there. And so this is another efficient way of maximizing the use of your floor space and getting the most out of your productivity in production while minimizing the steps needed going back and forth. And there we go. And so another thing that we want to focus on is actually the operator training. So I think one thing is really important is making sure that you have multiple operators that are trained on the process, that are performing the tasks in the same manner so that we have that level of consistency, especially when quality control is of concern. So it's good to check these processes throughout start to finish of your production workflow. Make sure that everybody's on the same page in terms of how they're pre-treating their garments, how they're loading them into the machine, how they're actually running all of this as it goes through the production. I think that's really important. When you have operators that are running processes a little bit differently, you might see a difference in consistency from one shift to the next. And we'll talk a little bit more about running multiple shifts as well as we go forward in this presentation. But operator training is definitely a key factor in here to make sure that everyone is trained up and ready to go, because the last thing that you want during peak production season is if your best operator goes down, maybe they're on vacation or they're sick, you need other operators to be able to fill in, but still be able to work at that same capacity as maybe your champion or number one operator is concerned. So we want to make sure that everybody is trained at the same level and can operate the equipment in a similar fashion so that we keep that consistency throughout the production process. Now, another one of those things that we can do to maximize our productivity and preparing for this peak season is having a way to actually monitor everything that's going through the production. Now, one thing that's nice about Epson's direct-to-garment printing applications is they actually come with a solution, the Epson Cloud Solution Port, and this enables you to monitor jobs that are going through, what's been printed, how the printers utilize the uptime and the downtime. And I think this is a really key component to have on the production floor, just like we see in the example on the screen. So at any time, you can walk up, see what you have printed, see what's gone through, and you can keep track of your production in a very efficient manner by utilizing a setup or system like the Cloud Solution Port. So regardless of what it is that you are using to monitor your system, I think it's important to have that monitoring capability so that way you can see exactly what's going on and you can kind of plan out your day according to that as well. Go to the next one here. And so with that, let's get a little bit more into the materials management and different things that you can prepare for from a material standpoint, not just with garments and ink, but also equipment as well. And so with that, I'd like to introduce back onto the call, Mr. Matt Rome. Matt, the floor is yours. Please take it away.
Hey, thank you, Paul. That was some great information that you just gave us. So let's talk about materials management. You know, a lot of people don't think about materials management, but now more than ever, it's very, very important. You know, look in the news. We see that there's container ships, a record number of container ships floating off the West Coast, waiting to unload. Why? Because they can't get employees to come and unload the ships. So this is something that affects all of us. And every one of you that's in business right now knows shipping is horrendous. It's really bad. Things take forever to get here. So this is something that you need to be aware of and think about during peak season. Equipment. If you look, we're having a lot of problems with raw materials. So the guy that's going to build your new conveyor dryer, he may not be able to source the raw materials to bend and break and cut and paint and put that conveyor dryer together. So if you think you might need a conveyor dryer in peak, you should order it now. Plan ahead. It's very important. One thing I will tell you about Epson, we do have equipment in inventory. We thought ahead. We're a big enough company that we can afford to bring the inventory in. So we do have inventory. If you do need a 2100 or a 3070, we have them available. So you might consider going ahead and ordering that extra machine for peak this year. So another thing is your inventory. You know, a lot of people do not think about their inventory, but it's very important. Right now, you should be able to order a 2X black t-shirt, no issue. But I'll tell you what, if you need that ladies cap sleeve in purple, and oh, by the way, it's a V-neck, yeah, you might be waiting a while to get it. A lot of the t-shirt manufacturers are saying there is going to be a shortage into next year. So how do you counter this shortage? Well, you just don't offer everything. Look at what your base products are. Again, like I said, 2X black basic t-shirt. Yeah, you're going to be able to find that. The specialty items, you're not. So don't make a big headache for yourself by offering everything in the catalog, because you know what? You're not going to get it. So make sure you take a look at that. Also, general supplies, printer supplies, maintenance supplies. Make sure you have them in your inventory. You know, the worst case scenario is that you go ahead and you say, hey, we're all going to work this Saturday to get caught up. Everybody shows up to work about an hour into the shift, you run out of ink. You don't want that to happen. Make sure that you have enough of your supplies and general inventory to carry you through peak season. So let's talk about expiration dates. A lot of people don't pay attention to this because they're busy printing, running their business. They don't think about it. The beauty of Epson ink is we have a 2-year shelf life, even on white. So you can utilize and use that ink up until the expiration date. So if you have some ink sitting around that it's 6 months to the expiration date, yeah, that's great. Go ahead and use it. Continue to use it. But what you want to do is to make sure that you lay in more inventory for peak season. And then you do have the peace of mind that it's not going to expire for quite a while. So make sure you order in plenty of ink to make sure that you do have it on hand.
All right, Matt, we certainly appreciate that portion. We're going to kick it back over to me and talk a little bit about the equipment maintenance. So equipment maintenance, I think, is one of those things that is very often overlooked, and it should be one of those focusing points that you want to make sure that you have everything dialed in from a maintenance standpoint. And there's quite a few things that coincide with equipment maintenance, and it's not just cleaning around the heads and cap tops, but there's other stuff involved in that. And one of those things would be making sure that your printers are up to date on the latest firmware, and also that the software is up to date on the latest software version. There could be some additional features or improvements that you definitely want to take advantage of, and you want to be able to check that in advance before you get to busy season, before you're bogged down from being able to do those different things. And then in addition to that, you want to make sure that your print quality is printing at the best capability that it can be, whether that's double checking your print head alignments to make sure that everything is dialed in, and so you have good registration between your white and color and so on. You also want to make sure that you change the consumables as needed. So if there's anything inside the machine that needs to be swapped out, whether that's a fabric wiper cassette or a flushing pad, you want to keep an eye on all of those things, make sure that you have a fresh batch installed, so that way you're not interrupting right in the middle of a busy production day to take care of those different things. And the other thing that you want to look at, which again is one of the overlooked things, is checking your auxiliary equipment. So taking a look at your heat presses, your conveyor dryer, making sure that everything is going up to the appropriate temperature. We have our dwell times set accordingly, and we have everything dialed in, so that way when we hit that production and we're running lots and lots of jobs throughout the day, we want to be able to tackle that efficiently and have everything set up accordingly so that the process just runs nice and smooth and we don't have any hiccups. So last thing that we want to do is have a situation where we are needing to stop production in order to clean or reset or check different pieces in the puzzle to make sure that they are up to speed before we can jump back into it. So we definitely want to make sure that we address that. One of the other things that you want to take a look at, and some of these printers will come with this information, is a maintenance schedule. So taking a look at the maintenance schedule of the respective printers and seeing what needs to be done on those printers, whether that's wiping the print heads, changing the different consumables. It'll look kind of something like this right here. And this is a great way for the operators to be able to track that, especially if there's multiple shifts. It's not uncommon to see maybe a sign-in sheet so that each operator at the beginning or end of their shift, they can mark off what areas they've addressed, what areas they haven't. And then the next person that's taking over for the next shift knows exactly where they left off and where they can pick up from. So having a maintenance schedule is great, if nothing more than just having a nice little routine checklist before you get everything going. So definitely something that's extremely convenient and advantageous to have.
Hey, Paul, there's a question in from Mike that wants to know a little bit about, maybe you might have already just addressed this, but it came in a little bit earlier. What's involved in a regular maintenance? How much time do you need to put in a day, week, etc.?
That's actually a really good question. Thank you for that question, Mike. So I think it's going to vary based on which printer you're running. But as an example, if we're talking about, I'm standing next to the F3070 here. Well, we have a couple of things that we've added into the machine to help drastically reduce the amount of maintenance that's required. And a lot of these same features you can find also in the F2100 series. And so we have maintenance liquid that's in there that will help perform different tasks inside the machine to keep everything clean and primed. And also the fabric wiper cassette is a really big component because this cleans the bottom of the print heads and wipes the entire surface area of the bottom of those heads. Unlike a rubberized wiper blade that may just push ink around, the fabric wiper takes everything off of that. So combining those different things in the machine, you're really only responsible for maintenance about a 5 to 10 minute procedure once per month. And outside of that, you're able to run the machine, keep everything up and running in production. And again, that's thanks to the maintenance liquid, the fabric wiper cassette, some of the other features that we've added into these machines. So a really good question there regarding the maintenance and what exactly it entails. So with that, I'd like to pass it back over to Tim. We're going to talk a little bit more about this particular process. So right back over to you, Tim.
Well, thank you, Paul. And hey, I'm glad. Any more questions, please, guys, feel free to use that Q&A button. We're here to help answer some questions. And hey, if we can help you get ready for peak, certainly let us know how we can. And Q&A button is certainly a great spot to start. What Paul's kind of just showed is, hey, how do you get more out of your existing equipment? How do you get more out of your process? So he showed a number of different techniques, how to streamline your workflow, as well as also looking at how do you make your machine more effective or be more productive. But at some point, hopefully business will keep booming. And at some point, you are going to hit a limit to what your machine can do. And so we look at this as you may have a single level printer. We're using in this case our F2100. You're setting that up, and that printer, generally speaking, with a dark garment, when you factor in loading and unloading time, realistic times, generally somewhere 15 to 20 dark half-size shirts an hour. And that's definitely cruising. But at some point, as you get ready for peak season, you may need more. Maybe you need more capability, more speed. One of the things that can happen here is you can add another printer. One operator can run more than one printer. In this case, where we replaced that one F2100, we've added on a second F2100. Similar to what Paul showed earlier, the printers can easily be positioned so your operator or whoever, including if it's you yourself doing the work, you're not taking a ton of steps moving back and forth to be able to get that work out. You can be more efficient. And with two printers, they're essentially doubling that throughput capability of going up to 30 to 40. But at some point, that still may not be enough, and you want more print quality. This is where some of the larger, more industrial scale printers can come in. So using a product like our Epson SureColor F3070 is a good fit here, where now we're bumping up. So instead of 30 to 40 half-size dark shirts an hour with our F2100 series, we're now moving this to 45 to 50 dark shirts an hour, full size. So from collar to belt. So if you're doing big, large prints, this machine adds a lot more productivity to it when it's appropriate. So in this case, when you have that type of work coming in and you're doing large size garments, this printer can really speed through that work very fast. And again, one printer, you'll be able to get that print volume up. You need more capability. The great thing about these print systems from Epson is there's no special power or no flooring requirements or any type of electrical, compressed air, water treatment. These are simply just plug them in. They're like building blocks. You pop it in, you want more, just add another building block. In this example where we have two of those printers running side by side in essentially what we call a little pod or a little work cell, you're able to produce upwards of 90 to 100 full-size dark garments in an hour. You need more capacity than that. There's a point where one operator can only run so much equipment, loading and unloading it. You don't want to have an operator going so fast that they're putting the shirt on crooked. So you end up with the print being the wrong direction. And so in this case, this work cell, you can create more of these. So you have maybe in pairs. So if you have two operators, you could have 4 printers that are there with a large conveyor. Maybe you have a bigger intake on your conveyor dryer that allows one conveyor to still be used for all of those printers to be able to produce upwards of 200 shirts an hour. And as that capacity keeps growing, simply it's just replicating these pods more and more to be able to get that capacity. The great thing is, as you get closer to that peak season, you know what your peak production is going to be, how much do you need? These products can be added on, like, as I said, building blocks. So maybe you don't need to add 50 extra garments an hour through your capacity, but you do need to add maybe 10 or so to keep it reasonable. Well, adding a 3070 and one of our F2100s to that mix would be easy way to be able to add that capability or capacity without breaking the bank, and also requiring a tremendous amount of floor space to do that. Another part though is, so if we max out what we can get each printer to do, and we add on some additional printers to get more capability, there does bring us over to what about more ways how to streamline that workflow. So as we start trying to go into high production capacity, one of the areas you don't want the operators, whoever's using the equipment, even if it's a one-person shop, you don't want to be running back and forth between the print software necessarily and sending jobs down and the work. If you're producing 50 shirts of the same design, you don't necessarily need to use that workflow automation. But as you start coming in with small orders, but a lot of different orders coming in, having some workflow software that may use like a barcode job pulling system. Products from Cathari makes a good product that fully supports these systems. as well as also doing a lot more on from order entry, or sorry, the order processing coming in to all the shipping. There's other products even from Wasatch that's out there. These aren't Epson software products, but they are products available on the market that really can streamline a workflow to make it where your operators are more efficient, where they're not changing settings and doing things. That's already done through the software. It's automated so that the operator really can focus and specialize on loading garments on there, making sure it prints nicely by hitting the button at the right time, that it prints good, and getting it to the tunnel dryer so that it can cure. And they can redo that over and over again to stay as most productive as possible. So workflow software is certainly a big factor. In that spots where you have a lot of customized orders that are coming in, a lot of unique orders, if you're doing a lot of web fulfillment, is a great way where you really may want to look at and consider putting that software in. One big thing on that is you don't want to do this at the last minute because it does take some customization to really make it work best for your environment. So if it's something that you're considering, make sure you get going on that as soon as possible so that you're ready for the peak season, not trying to basically, as people will say, change the oil on your car as you're driving down the freeway. You don't want to be doing that. You want to make sure you have everything set, ready to go before you get into that peak season. So we covered a number of different points so far, talking about what we can do up front, what we can do about in the front office and our sales and our product catalog. We talked about some process, how to make sure your workflow can be pretty smooth. We've talked about how to make sure you're stocking the right materials so that you don't have or stoppage to your print production. And lastly, we just talked about here is about adding in some more additional capacity or maximizing your printer throughput. But at some point, there is also the other part. It's always good to look to see how do you grow and what should you consider when you're planning to grow. And for that, I'm going to bring Matt back onto the call here. Matt, thanks for joining us again. And if you don't mind taking us through a couple of some best practices, and you've got a tremendous amount of years of knowledge and experience on this. What are some things you can share with us?
Okay, thank you, Tim. So let's think about growth planning. You say, hey, I want to grow. I need some more equipment, but how am I going to pay for it? So here's a couple of ideas. First thing is look at the SBA, the Small Business Administration. Since COVID, there is a lot of different types of programs available for you to get loans. And even in some cases, there's grants. Check out the EDIL program from the government. It's a very good program. You can get a very low interest loan from that. Also, be aware, if you get an email from someone offering to help you with money from the SBA, make sure it says sba.gov. There's a lot of scams going on out there. Also, check with your local bank. You know, they're offering very low interest loans right now. That's another way to check. Also, Section 179. Now, 179 is a tax incentive, where in some cases, depending on your filing status and other criteria, you could get a very, very big tax deduction on buying new equipment for your business. So check into that also. So one thing about Epson is we don't make just one DTG printer. We have a family of DTG printers. You can get a small, your F2100, and you can get the big boy, the F3070. People always ask, what's the main difference? And realistically, it's print speed. They both have super high quality, very durable inks. And I'll tell you something else that Epson has. You can get full coverage on your machine up to 5 years through our extended service programs. And we even have programs that cover the whole printer, including the print head. You know, we are so confident in our machines, the reliability and the durability of the machines, that we offer such a program. 5 years. That's unheard of in the DTG industry. So this is something that you should really check on. When you're in peak season and your printer is down, you're not making money. So check into these programs. And hey, by the way, if you have a 2100 that's not under a service agreement, check into it. The same with the 3070. Call into Epson, give them your serial number, and they will tell you what's available for you. So let's talk one more slide about growth planning. Here's a few tips. If you're running one printer and you find out that you're running it all day, you're having to pay overtime because you can't get everything done in one shift, consider getting a second printer, maybe a third, maybe a fourth. You know, one operator can run multiple printers. I have a lot of shops that they have one operator running two 3070s. And I've been into shops where they have one operator running as many as 4 2100s. So adding multiple machines with the same operator helps you get production out. Think about a second shift. A lot of people don't think about that. You might as well, you're already paying rent or a mortgage on the building. You already own the equipment. All you're doing is adding a second shift of labor. So that's something to really think about. You know, most of the big boys run 24/7. If you're a small guy, you can do the same thing. Just add on more employees. Don't underbuy equipment. I see a lot of people make this mistake, especially with conveyor dryers. They'll decide that they want to get away from heat press, go into conveyor dryer. They'll buy a conveyor dryer just for this DTG machine. And then they'll find out they're going to need to buy another conveyor dryer because they underbought. They went for the dollar value rather than the production value. So if you're going to buy a conveyor dryer, for instance, buy one that can handle 3 or 4 2100s or at least 2 3070s. Don't underbuy equipment. Always consider your future production needs, especially when you're looking at equipment. And that even carries over to a building. If you're looking to expand and rent a building, don't rent a building that's just going to be able to house the equipment you have today. Think about tomorrow. Always consider this. So let's think about the complete Epson solution. This is another thing a lot of people don't think about. There's a lot of manufacturers out there selling DTG equipment. Some people you've never heard of that are on the auction sites. Then there's other name brand companies like Epson. Part of the reason you'll buy from Epson is because we're the manufacturer. We make everything. We make the print heads. We offer you a great garment printer design software. We make the ink. And one of the other things that's great that I mentioned before, we have our Preferred Plus service where you can get up to 5 years of total coverage on your printer. That's very important. So when you buy from Epson, you're buying from the manufacturer. Our name's on the front. We're taking care of you. So with that, we're going to wrap it up.
We do thank you all so much for joining us. And I just want to throw in a friendly reminder that if you enjoyed this webinar and want to see more webinars like this, or even take a look at some webinars that you may have missed and see some past recordings, be sure to take a look at the website that you see on your screen now. That's epson.com/SureColor event. I'd like to thank Tim Check and Matt Rome for joining me on the call today. And I'd like to thank all of you for joining us as well. We wish you a safe and successful production and busy season up ahead. Thank you all for joining us. Have a wonderful day.